Hello and welcome back to the Sip and Knit podcast. My name is Sarah of Sarah Kareen Knits, and you are very welcome to this new episode where I'm going to talk about what I've been working on knitting wise and also some fun pattern suggestions for accessories because I've been knitting a lot of accessories and baby knits, and so I was really inspired to put together a list of accessories. We'll talk about that a little bit more near the end of the video. I want to spend some time with you all chatting about what I've been knitting because I have not put out a regular knitting podcast in a few weeks. So that's what I'm here to do today. I would like to start, well, first, I cannot take a sip of my coffee because I just made it and it is steaming hot, but that's what I'm sipping on today out of this chipped coffee mug. It's from my partner when she was a paramedic in Toronto. It's got her district on it. It was a thank you mug one year that they got, I think, probably around Christmas time is my guess. But the coffee is far too hot. But if you're wondering, I do have a beverage. This is a Sip and Knit podcast. It is shamefully instant coffee. The UK ruined me. And I have a problem now. I have Hannah and Minty to thank for that. I don't think they're watching this, but yeah, I tried it while we were in the UK. And now it's all I want to drink it for my afternoon coffee because it's really easy to make. So that's what I've been drinking. I don't want to be that person who's like, oh my God, the lighting. But if you notice, it is darker. I'm also in a different room to try to combat the darkness. So I have a much better, I'm more angled to the window than how I would be in my other room. So that's why we're in this new background. But it is extremely dark and gloomy outside. I mean, it's 2:30 in the afternoon, but you'd think it was 5 or 6 p.m. It's really dark. So I do apologize if that messes with the video quality. I am only filming on my phone. I'm doing what I can do. All that being said, all the disclaimers aside, let's jump into it. Let's talk about the knitting. Let's do this. So I have a bunch of yarn sitting here to talk about the patterns and projects that I potentially want to cast on. So we don't need that right now, but I'm also trying not to disturb my sleeping cat. Let's talk about, there's fewer works in progress than there are finished objects. So I think I'm gonna start with works in progress. Before I forget, because you're probably screaming at the screen, what are you wearing? What's that sweater? This is the Elf Mail sweater by Danny. Don't remember her last name, but it's the Elf Mail sweater. I think, rumor has it, she has started working on a Elf Mail cardigan pattern, which is really exciting. Essentially what this is a broken rib, broken seed stitch, something to that effect, a seed stitch of some kind, with a main color that's a solid and then a contrast color that's a variegated. Something like this would actually work really well for that. So a variegated and a tonal, or a solid color if you're not sure what a tonal means, because that's a very I feel hand dyers use tonal where it's solid color. And yeah, this is the I don't think I made any modifications. It's just the long sleeve version. The only modification I guess would be that I didn't decrease my sleeves and I just cinched them in. They're bracelet length on me, which I both like and dislike. I can't really decide because I find with sweaters I'm always pushing up the sleeves, so then I'm okay, I'll just knit this one bracelet length, but then with it being bracelet length it's also annoying and I'd rather be able to push up the sleeve. I don't know. It's every sweater you do, you learn something about what you like about sweaters, and you can kind of adjust as you go along, which I guess is probably why we all like to make our own clothes. But this is knit with, the brown is Knit Picks Hawthorne Kettle Dyed in the colorway Fawn, and the variegated that you're seeing is a I don't know if it's something that she will bring back, but it's not the Brave colorway. I think that's what it was called. Or it's no, it was called You Can Reply to This Message. The You Can Reply to This Message colorway from the it would have been 2020, I think. Around Christmas time, but like near the end of the year. It was the Critical Role Yarn Club. Wow, it's taking me a lot of words to get this out. It's from Chromatic Yarns. Hannah is the dyer behind Chromatic Yarns. Hannah does a Critical Role Yarn Club subscription thing. Like once a month, you can pay to have the yarn that month. My partner got me 2 skeins of this. So with the main color, I was able to get a long sleeve garment out of the 2 skeins because I was adding in 2 skeins of another color. And that's what this is, fingering weight. Wow, okay. If you didn't care about what I was wearing, that was a lot of words for you to have to sit through. Oh goodness. Okay, so works in progress. This one will be familiar if you watched any of my recent podcast episodes, like traditional podcast episodes, I should say, because I've had a couple that were like non-traditional. This is the Anna T. The designer's name I do not recall, and the design itself is not size inclusive, so boo to them anyways. But it is I guess you'd call this saddle shoulder construction. So it's like got that straight for the shoulders and then straight again for the sleeve. You'll notice, so the bottom is a different color than the cuff and there is no neckline, but it has been blocked. It's like this really beautiful drapey situation. This is for my partner. So what I did was I made the size 4 so that it would fit her in the shoulders and chest. And then I did some increases in the side and in the back to accommodate for her larger torso. She tried it on and it worked out really, really well. I'm really happy with the modifications that I made. The ribbing on the bottom might be a little bit too short for her taste. So I'm gonna do the sleeves in the brown and I'm gonna do them a little longer and I'm gonna do the neckline in the brown. And then I might come back and rip out and do another like probably 1.5 inches. We'll see. It'll all depend on anything that I can do so that whoever the garment is intended for will wear it. I will make those changes. It's funny. It's like when I'm making something for someone else, I'm almost more willing to rip out. Like this already had a neckline. This was almost done, but then we both decided that the green didn't look as good as the brown would. So like, I was just like, okay, it's just not going to be a finished object for a while. We'll keep going to make sure that's something that you like. And like, if this were mine, I probably would have left the color that I wasn't super stoked on and probably just wouldn't have worn it as much. So it's been a really good practice of like reminding myself that I can do those same things for myself. Like it doesn't have to be that I'm making it for someone else in order for me to make adjustments to make sure I like it. So yeah, I'm gonna do quite a long neckline because right now when she tried it on, it was quite open. So I want to try to bring that in for her. But yeah, otherwise I think it's going quite well. The yarn is the same brown from this garment. Actually, that works out really well. So it's the Knit Picks one. And then the yellow is a Tanis Fiber Arts Pure Wash Fingering in the colorway Caramel. I love her yarns. They're a delight to work with. Her yarn is like, a lot of them are like that tonal, but I would actually, like that's an actual tonal. Like this I would call a solid versus this is a tonal where like there is that variegation within that one color. So you do, or at least I prefer to alternate skeins to get a more like even variegation, because otherwise you might see some pooling with like that lighter, the lighter parts of the yarn. So I did helical knitting on the body. You knit flat on the top of the neck to like make room for the front of the neck, and I just knit flat for that part, but it was like only 2 inches, so not really noticeable. And then I did I was done knitting flat, so for the whole thing I helical knitted, which was a little bit weird over like the increases in the stitch markers and stuff, but it was doable, and I think it made for a nicer garment, so I am happy that I did that. So that is for my partner. That is the Anna T, not size inclusive. I think it only goes up to like a 52-inch bust, so I don't recommend the pattern. I had bought it before I started really like paying attention to sizing. Okay, so my next whip is a baby cardigan. It's so tiny. Okay, so I did make another baby cardigan of the same pattern. It is like this cobalt blue. Let's see if I have the yarn. We're sitting where I sit on the couch and like where I knit every day, so I'm able to just like reach over and like find things, which is kind of convenient. So this is the Patton's Astra. It is a 100% acrylic, and it is in the colorway like electric blue or something fun. Yeah, electric blue. It's a DK weight. The pattern is DK weight. However, it's a baby garment, so like, you know, if you know your gauge with like a DK to worsted acrylic on a US 7 needle, which is what this is, it's a free pattern, so I can explain it to my heart's content. But yeah, like I'm using, so okay, let me finish talking about that one. I finished a sweater. I'll try to put a picture up. It is in that electric blue with little froggy buttons, very, very cute. And I made it for my partner's friend, which she's my friend as well. Her son just turned 1 over this past weekend, so I made him the 1-year-old size. And we were kind of laughing about how it's probably only going to fit him for a month or two because he is in like the 95th percentile for height and weight. He's a big boy. So I made that for him. Pattern's free. I had yarn in stash, and I know that I want to make some like, I don't want to say just cardigans. Like I want to make cardigans, pullovers, hats. Like I've been making stuff for babies in the family because I'm going to visit home in to Ontario in December. So, and a lot of people had babies this year. This was the year of babies. I also haven't been home for about 2 years, so I'm like catching up on lost baby knits. Anyway, so I was originally going to make the newest baby. He was just born like a week or 2 ago. I was gonna make him a flax pullover to match his cousin. And I'll pull out the one that I made for the cousin. I was gonna make him a flax pullover. This is the second size, the 6 to 12 month, and I was gonna make the littlest baby a 0 to 6 month, but I frankly didn't want to fiddle with the potential of the neckband being too small to start on 16-inch circulars and having to like fiddle with magic loop. I was just like not in the mood. Like if you ever like want to cast something on while you're watching TV and there's just like something about it that's like, oh, that's going to be a little bit annoying. So instead I was like, well, I really liked, I'll talk about this in a minute. I really liked knitting that blue cardigan, and I have a lot of worsted acrylic stash. I find that DK acrylic, I don't know if it just isn't that popular, but anyway, I have a lot of worsted acrylic stash. Words are hard. And although this pattern is technically DK weight, I was like, this is like a thin enough, I don't know, like it's not super, I have no idea if you can actually see that, but it's not super thick worsted versus like this is quite heavy. So I don't think I would have been able to get away with this, but this is the Pound of Love yarn from Lion Brand. And while I think it's like a category 4, I think it's a light worsted. So I did it and it's working out just fine. So this is teeny tiny baby size, newborn. And I don't have any buttons for it yet, but my local yarn store has some really cute buttons. It's where we got the frog buttons. So I'm anticipating it's gonna be just fine. I started this yesterday. I have the day off today. I spent the morning doing the body, and then I'm gonna cast on for the sleeves tonight. So this should be done like in 2 days time, maybe not even. So that's been going just fine. Unfortunately, like I remember that this is Pound of Love from Lion Brand. I, however, have no idea what the colorway is. That being said, they probably only have the one dark green. So that's what that is, just a dark green. And that is my second work in progress. I lost my other bag. I have so many bags over here. I'm using my, it's very appropriate for Christmas time, knitting with my No Me's bag there. So that's that. Let's talk about the other sweater that I just pulled out. So this, we're going into finished objects now. Those are the only 2 whips that I have. Oh no, I lied. I have this. So this is the second one of this. So this is the Pearl Soho ribbed classic hat. DK weight on US 3s, also a free pattern. The cardigan was the Oh Baby cardigan. This is the Pearl Soho ribbed hat. Both of them free, which is really great. The flax is free too. There's so many good free baby patterns. It's kind of nice. So this is knit out of Loops and Threads Kai, K-A-I, in like their unicorn colorway. It is like it's not quite like a barber pole, but it has that like vibe of like that variegation that like is like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like fading into each other. So one of my step siblings has a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, so I wanted to make them matching hats. This one is going to be for the 2-year-old. I made the child size on the US 3 as it called for, but I feel like it is quite small. I don't know if that's just, I don't have an idea of how large a baby, not even a baby, like a 2-year-old or a 4-year-old's head should be. But I think with the ribbing and like it will not really block out because it is acrylic. I'm just a little worried that it's going to be a little tight for the 4-year-old. So this is going to be for the 2-year-old. I'm going to add a gray pom-pom on top. It's going to be so cute. I'm so excited. So I've cast on another one, but I've cast on US 4s this time, but the same stitch count as the US 3 for the child size. So my hope is that it'll just have that little extra give and not necessarily like making it bigger by stitch count. I don't know if that's gonna like change the effect of the hat, because the effect of the hat is that it's like that really tight ribbing. But we're gonna try it and see how it goes. Same ball of yarn that I cast on this one, I've cast on this one, and I think I've ended up around the same like dark blue color that I started with for this hat on this hat. So they might end up pretty identical, which is pretty cool. I'm just pulling from the center. I have like 1.5 more, not including this, of this yarn. So yeah, I don't know. I tend to knit baby knits out of acrylic because it's easy care for like parents and stuff. So maybe I'll make more baby hats out of this yarn because I have so much of it. And I don't know, I feel like I could, that's a good like donation thing for folks. So I say that, but it'll probably not be until next November and December that I'm even thinking about making baby knits again. So probably not. But yeah, so that is actually my last whip. Now we will move into finished objects. I don't know if the camera is down far enough for you to see, but my cat has like sat on my feet and it's really, really cute. Alrighty, so now we can actually talk about this sweater. So this is, like I've said, this is the Flax by Tin Can Knits, the original worsted weight, without the garter panel. So typically there's a garter panel all the way down the sleeves. I've omitted that. I've made another baby flax, haven't I? No, I guess not. I think this is my first one, but I don't know. I like the garter just fine. Like I don't see any problems with it. And I think it looks really nice when you do all one color to like have that detail, but I knew that I wanted to do a color block, so I just left it out. The yarn is Lion Brand's Heartland. Again, I don't have the ball bands. This is like old yarn. So, this is whatever beige they have and whatever like mossy green they have. That's what this is. I sadly don't know the colorway names. Those ball bands are long gone, but it's really nice acrylic yarn. I find this to be like quite soft. And while it does have that like squeaky quality to it, I think that the finished object is like worth getting through that if that bothers you. Like I say, especially for a baby garment, it's just such easy care. One thing I did do is I did a German twisted cast on for extra stretchiness at the top. And the color block, I just switched, I think like 3 or 4 rows after the sleeve split is when I added in my second color. So nothing super like, what's the word I'm looking for? Scientific. But yeah, so that's another baby knit that's been finished. That's gonna go to one of the little baby Nephews. And that's it for baby knits. Oh, one other thing that I finished along with that blue cardigan was a scrunchie. But that took me literally one night. And I knitted out of like deep stash. And I think I posted like an Instagram story about it. It's also a free pattern from Tori. I don't know her last name, but I think she's Tori NYC on Instagram. Scrunchies are a lot of fun to knit, and I will be knitting more of them in the future, so don't be surprised if you see more of those. Okay, finished objects that I still have to show, which is far more interesting anyways. This is a pair of vanilla socks. As you may or may not know, if this is your first time watching, I'll explain. But for those of you who do know, I'll re-explain. All of my socks that I knit, unless otherwise stated, are more or less the same recipe. So 64 stitches. It used to be 72, but then I realized that the socks I was making for my partner were too big, especially around the ankle. So I decided to go down to a 64 stitch sock instead. I will do a 2x2 rib or a 1x1 rib, depending on my mood and what I feel like knitting at the time. My partner likes a longer ribbing. So I think this one is like 30 rounds, give or take. And then a fairly long leg. I don't really go by measurement. I tend to go by like stitch count, and especially if I'm working with self-striping, I'll just go by stripe numbers. This is a Fish Lips Kiss heel, and then the toe, I do decreases every other round until I get to 20 stitches on each needle, and then I decrease every round until I get to 10 stitches on each needle, and I Kitchener to close. That's my sock of choice, if you will. Oh, that would be a really funny reel with that audio, wouldn't it? What's your sock of choice? Vanilla. Ooh, stunning, you know, like that. I feel like I've missed part of the audio, but you get what I mean. You're on Instagram just the same as the rest of us. Don't pretend like you're not. Okay. So that's the socks that I just finished last night, which is nice. I've been working on like getting things off the needles, because I've just been gift knitting so much. So, all right, almost done. These are my, oh, cat, what are you doing, bud? Okay, good job. These are my, they're called the lambing mitts, lambing, like sheep, lamb, you know? They're the lambing mitts by who I don't know. They're a free pattern. I just typed into Ravelry worsted fingerless mittens, and this was like the first option that I liked. So, you know, that's how that happened. Because I wanted to make, specifically I wanted to use Gilead by Durarem Natura. So that's this yarn here. This is the Gilead by Durarem Natura. You're potentially familiar with this yarn brand. I think it's quite popular. It's a really beautiful yarn. So it's 100% wool. I believe it's a 100% merino wool, but it doesn't say merino on this. So that could be, I don't know where I'm getting that from, but as I understood it, it was French merino. Could be wrong. And it's 250 meters for 100 grams, but it is a worsted weight. So it is a woolen, I'll say a woolen-ish spun. It's like somewhere between like a woolen spun and a worsted spun, and it's really lightweight. So like usually when you get something in a ball like this, it's usually 50 grams, but this is 100, and it's 250 meters, which is like even more yards. It's like 260, 270 yards. So to me, that's a DK weight, but this is absolutely a worsted weight in terms of gauge. You could knit it up to a DK weight gauge, but it would be pretty tight. So yeah, like this suggests 19 to 17 stitches over 4 inches, and that feels right to me. The colorway is Dore, D-O-R-E accent aigu, I think is the one that goes, if you're, so I guess this way for you, but this way if I'm looking at the E, it's this. My mom is probably shaking her head at me right now because I didn't know which accent it was, but such is life. I stopped French after 9th grade. So that's these. I knit these for myself because when I was walking the dog, I was just like sick of being kind of cold. So that's the story behind that. This is purely a for me quick like utility knit. I don't know how much left over. I have to weigh this. I think probably around 50 grams. We'll talk about what I want to use this for in a moment. So that's that. Final FO that I will try on. Mary, I hope you don't mind I'm putting your hat on. But this is a Musselburgh hat. It is knit out of Opus yarns in their like merino alpaca blend. And it's yellow, obviously. And I knit this because we were going to our trip to like Italy and the UK, and I wanted something on the needles that was like quick in the round. So what I had done was I did like the crown increases and got myself to just be on 16-inch circulars so that I could take it with me to travel. That was great to have, and now I have this hat that I'm giving away to my friend who lives in the UK. So ironically, had I just finished it then, I would have been able to give it to her, but that's not what happened. So, so yeah, this yellow is personally not, I don't think it's my color. I could be wrong, but you know, I've just never really gravitated towards it to wear, but I think it's really pretty. So yeah, it's nice that I have a friend who loves yellow and looks incredible in yellow, and I can just send it to her as a kind of like a Christmas gift, but really just a, hey, thanks for giving me an excuse to knit one of my favorite hat patterns with really nice yarn. Yeah, so that's gonna go to her. These are my mittens. That's it. That's all my FOs. Oh my goodness, so many. My cat is now rubbing his face in the yellow yarn here. He really likes untreated wool. So yeah, all right. Wow, what a lot of knitting to have talked about. And that's not even including my like Cowl knitting that I stopped, and my Cozy Classic Light. I've like, you know, gotten through some of the first sleeve. Like there's other knitting that I'm just not even sharing because it would just be too much. But I'll obviously bring them back on the podcast when they are relevant again, probably around Christmas time. My cat is like throwing himself into the yarn over here, and I feel bad because I'm about to take it to show you all, but he's just so happy. Alrighty, I'm gonna pause here and I'm going to talk to you about some accessory patterns that are worth your attention. So stay tuned if you're interested. Alrighty, let's get into some knitting patterns worth your attention. Now, if you're like, what are you talking about? I've recently decided that I was going to put out on my Ko-Fi a list of patterns that I think deserve more attention. They're by designers that are not necessarily perpetually on the hot right now list. Doesn't mean they're not designers that make it to the hot right now list, but they're designers, they're not like the Andrew Mowrys, the Petite Knits, the Stephen Wests of the world that are like, everyone's always buying their patterns because they're like perennially popular. These are the folks who are making just as beautiful patterns that I think probably deserve a little bit more of your favorites and your cast-ons. And my own cast-ons too, because I mean, I just told you that I literally typed in worsted fingerless mitts and picked like the third option that showed up on Ravelry. Nobody's perfect, but I just thought that if I put together a list, it might take away that barrier to entry for folks, and you might be able to find patterns that you otherwise might not have been interested in or really thought to look for. Are you stuck? Is your nail stuck? Okay. He's like rolling in this yarn. I'm just gonna move it, buddy, because I need to talk about it and I don't want your nails stuck in it, okay? Here, I'll give you the mittens instead. You can play with the mittens instead. Okay. Yeah, so I put together that list, and I've also put together just a little, like a short, like post. I don't want to call it a blog post because it's not really a blog, but it is a quick post about how I search on Ravelry and how I use the search function to maybe not always show me the hot right now, and instead show me like what is most relevant to my search, for example, and also how to remove certain designers from your search function altogether if you, like me, do not want to knit non-inclusive patterns or just patterns from non-inclusive designers. Like, for example, anytime I added an accessory pattern to this list, I checked if that designer had garment patterns. I checked their most recent garment pattern, and if it was not size inclusive, I did not include even their accessory patterns on this list. So it's for those of us who really want to make sure, like, we're voting with our dollar, that designers are focusing their efforts on making inclusive garment patterns. So you can feel comfortable, like, choosing from this list, because I've done that work for you. I am gonna leave a link to the Ravelry bundle below this video. If you want access to the spreadsheet with links, that is on my Ko-Fi for a small tip. If you wish to leave it, you could leave as little as $1. It's just a thank you if you wanna do that. If you don't, the Ravelry bundle is below, and that's okay too. I'm not gonna talk about every single pattern that's on that list, because there are 61 patterns and potentially more, because there's an opportunity on the spreadsheet. There's a community tab to leave suggestions. So there might even be more I haven't checked. But there's 61 that I put together on that list. So I am only going to talk about 10. And in those 10, I'm going to talk about a handful that I want to potentially cast on with this pile of goodness. So let's get right into it, shall we? Okay, so the first one is going to be the Florence Hat by JP Knits Things. That's Jen Parasini. If you've been around my videos even a couple times, you know that I really admire this designer. I think that Jen is an invaluable resource to this community. She puts so much care into the work that she does and is extremely thoughtful with what she chooses to include in her pattern. She chooses to include in her patterns. And I don't own this hat pattern, but I do own other garment patterns of Jen's, and I can only imagine that the writing in the hat pattern is going to be just as thoughtful. It is a sport weight pattern, and it goes all the way from baby to adult large. So it is a paid for pattern, but there is like it's not just stockinette or ribbing or anything. So it's definitely worth your dollars. I think anything that Jen does is worth your dollars. And it's not to say that anyone who's provided a free accessory pattern that their work is not worth dollars. I actually kind of have a problem with free patterns in a lot of ways. I think it can toe the line for me, for like, it's really nice that the community is being given access to patterns for free, but if everything is free, it can devalue the work of folks who are putting the time and effort into making really well graded and thoughtful patterns. So anyway, I digress. That's for another video altogether. That being said, this is the Florence Hat, JP Knits Things, sport weight, which I think is nice because you can kind of get away with like DK or fingering if you want to mess with your gauge a little bit, and it goes all the way from baby to adult large. So really great there. I don't have any like plans for it right now because I don't have any sport weight in my stash. Oh, that's a lie. I might, maybe, but I just didn't like pull from it for this video, but I could see myself knitting it in the future. Pretty much any of these 10 patterns that I chose from the 61 are ones that I'm like, I would cast that on tomorrow if someone like handed me the yarn to do it. You know what I mean? So the next one is a free pattern. It's called the Randall Hat. Okay, wait, I'll say this. It's either that it's free or it's just not available to purchase on Ravelry, and it is available to purchase on Payhip. But if I'm not mistaken, the Randall Hat is free. It's by Disyarning or Harper. It's a DK weight pattern and it comes in 2 sizes. Harper, much like Jen, very thoughtful in the way that they interact with the community, forever looking to be as size inclusive as possible, like even in things such as socks. And just like I recently tested it for them and it was a great experience. So highly recommend the Randall Hat. I actually I don't have it here with me, but I have like a periwinkle purple DK weight that I did a sweater in this year that I think would be really beautiful. The hat has like these like traveling texture stitches. Like, it's just very beautiful. So yeah, so that is the Randall hat, really nice. And then the third and final hat that I want to talk about is what I want to use this yarn for. I might have to buy a second skein, but such is life. My local yarn store carries it, so it's not the end of the world. I just hope I can, I hope I can match dye lots. But it is called the Grass Whispers Hat by Teddy Lusac. It's a worsted weight and it comes in 4 sizes. The texture on this one is just really, really special. I think it's quite unique in, like, it looks like a ribbed hat at first glance, but then there's like that extra texture cable situation that I just think is really special. And there's something about the yarn that she used just looks so squishy. So I hope that this can kind of give me the same effect. Also paid for pattern, but yeah, so that's the third hat I wanted to mention. 4 sizes, so a pretty good breadth of options there for you if you wanted to gift it. That's another thing. I think I'm talking about accessories right now because my brain is in accessory mode because I'm making things for family members and stuff because it's the winter time. Not even necessarily to gift for Christmas. It's just like I find in the winter, knitting becomes really useful, and so I'm like, well, if I can fill this gap for someone and like make the mittens or a hat, why not? I have that capability, so that's why we're focusing on accessories. So we'll talk about cowls next. I have 4 to talk about for cowls. And the first one is Creole by Isolde Teague. So Isolde is the person who designed the Musselburgh hat. The Musselburgh is also on this list, even though it's probably one of the most popular hat patterns right now. Isolde runs an extremely, like, I feel like I align with Isolde on a lot of things with the way that the business is run and everything like that. So I was just like, I don't care that it's a really popular pattern. I'm going to put Isolde on here because I think that people who choose to lead with like compassion and put people first in their business practices, I think deserve to be shouted out at all times. So that's why Isolde is on this list. This is the DK weight cowl that has like brioche and garter. It's a couple colors. It's really stunning. It is 1 size. It's a cowl. I think most cowls are 1 size. So yeah, I wasn't too shocked about that. The next one is one that I personally want to cast on. It's called the Gusty by Laura Ayler. It's worsted weight and it's 1 size, but the notes on the sizing says that it is modifiable and that there's notes in the pattern for how to modify it. So that's good. This yarn is going to come up twice. It's going to come up for this cowl and a second cowl, so I don't know which one I'm going to do. This is fingering weight, fingering to sport probably. It's 350 yards, so yeah, probably more sport weight, but what I was thinking is I would hold it double to achieve the worsted weight gauge. This pattern is both like a cowl this way, and then it also comes down in like a triangle in the front. So it just looks very warm and cozy. So I've had this yarn in my stash. It's a British wool and alpaca. And I've been wanting to use it. I kind of bought it on a whim and it was pretty pricey. So I feel like I've been like holding on to it for like that perfect pattern. So this might be it. Or it could be the Spiritual Guardian Cowl by my friend Kat of Heather and Hops, Kat Weaver. That one's a DK weight pattern. So what I would do is I would hold with, Gusty is 1 size, modifiable. I said that already. Cool. Okay, moving on. This could also be the Spiritual Guardian Cowl by Kat. I would hold it double with mohair. This is the Drops Kids Silk Color 7. It might be with this, it might be with a different one. I don't know, but just for an example, that's what I would do. It would give this like glow effect that I think would be really pretty in like the cable texture that Kat has done for this cowl. It does come in 2 lengths. It comes in 2 circumferences as well as 2 lengths. So there's customization there for you if you prefer something a little more close or wide, and then also like short or long. And you can mismatch with those 2. So You can kind of make the cowl that's right for you or the person you're making it for. Again, it's DK weight, so you can strand with fingering weight and mohair if you have some like leftovers from a sweater or something, or if you have a single skein of DK weight, you can also do that. So I don't know what this is going to be, but I feel like it's going to be an accessory. And while it could be a hat, like it could be a Musselburgh, there's something about like the slight halo on this yarn that feels like a cowl just really would be so snuggly and nice. So yeah, so that's what that might be. I haven't decided. I could even hold this together for the cowl for the worsted weight and just like mess around with my gauge. So that's an option for sure, but we'll see. Okay, next cowl is the Versa cowl by Amy Pelletier. It's a worsted weight as well, and it is one size. This one's really cool because it has some like slip stitch mosaic knitting as well as some like stripes happening, and it's kind of just like a tube, so it looks like it would be really satisfying to knit. What I would do for that is I have these from Red Door. This is back her old label. This one is from the Aquatar collection. This one is Feyre Darling, and this one is Fine is Great. So let me hold it like that. So this one has some really beautiful like magenta-y pinkish burgundy with like brown and green speckles, and then this one is this like really nice even taupe. I would hold it together because like hold it double with itself, so I wouldn't marl the two. I'd hold them, you know, with its own color. But I would do these yarns because I mean, I have to double check the pattern, but it looks like it's like a variegated and a tonal, so I think these would work really well. I've been trying to find a shawl that I want to do with these, but I find two color shawls, I tend to prefer like two from the same color family, or like they're a little more close in color. I worry that these would give me more contrast than I personally prefer. So my thought is if I hold this double, especially, like I will tone down the variegation of it with the marling, and it'll be less, it won't be as large of a swath of one color, so I might not mind the contrast as much. Excuse me. That was a big sneeze. So yeah, so that's what I was thinking. I was just like, I was putting this list together for this podcast and just thought, ooh, these could be good for that cowl. So we'll see. I'm amassing a pretty large Red Door Fiber Studio collection. I think Kate, I keep talking about people who are like running their businesses in a way that like make my heart sing, but Kate's another great example of that. And so I think like purchasing her yarn is, I feel like we're not friends in real life. It's very much like, I just appreciate the way that she posts on stories and is super authentic. And I just like want to support her and her family so much. So, yeah, so I've just amassed quite the stash of her yarn. So I think putting this into a cowl makes a lot of sense. She also has a cat who is named after the same Princess Bride character as my cat, and they look alike. So I don't know, I just feel like it's very much like an internet friendship where it's like, we would totally be friends in real life, even though we're not friends at all. But yeah, so that's what this is. And it honestly probably will be that cowl. Like I kind of want to cast it on like now. I'm like, this is a brilliant idea. Okay, moving on to mittens. So my first mitten pattern that I want to shout out is the Marilla's Mittens by Amy Scher. They're a DK weight and they come in 4 sizes. They have a really beautiful botanical kind of pattern with baubles. Very nice, very stunning. DK weight, a single skein. There's 4 sizes from youth to adult large. So definitely good for gifting or for making for yourself, whatever floats your boat. The next one are the Raven Light, also by Disyarning. Shout out to Harper a second time. These come in 2 sizes and they are fingering weight colorwork fingerless mittens with like a little raven skull on them. Really cute. I think there's 3 colors, so I would have to pull from my stash, but I have this palette yarn in Coriander Heather and Larch Heather from Knit Picks. I have quite a bit of stash of this because I knit a scarf in this and some other stuff, some other mittens from last year's Christmas time. So I think I'd have to pull from stash, but I could make the mitts out of this. I think would be really pretty. And then the other thing, the third mitten are the anticline, I don't know how to pronounce it. Anticline? Sure. By Emily Green, also fingering weight in 2 sizes. I could make a pair, also they're also fingerless, out of like just the one color. I don't know if 50 grams is enough, so like I might have to get another ball of yarn, but this is like $3 US a ball. And I want to make a sweater out of this, so I would probably just like tack it on to like an order for sweater yarn and call it good. But yeah, so the anticline are really cool. They're like this, is it twisted ribbing? It might be. And if it's all over twisted ribbing, I might be changing my mind in this moment explaining this pattern to you, because I'm like thinking about it and I think it's twisted ribbing, but it's really pretty. There's the way that the twisted ribbing is like, she angles it, I think probably with like either twisted stitches or cabling, to make these like geometric kind of looking lines on the mittens, and it's just very beautiful. And I think in like a neutral color that would be quite pretty. So I don't know though, now that I'm thinking about them, I'm like, if that's all twisted ribbing, your girl is not down for that. So probably not. But yeah, so those are the mitten patterns that I wanted to shout out. Mittens for me are like my least likely to cast on for myself, because now that I have my one pair of fingerless mitts that I can like pull up the like hand part to like cover my fingers, I'm probably, those are it for me. And I have a pair of mittens that I made last year from Newton and Mohair that Kat very kindly sent my way, that are just like improvised mittens, that are pretty useful in terms of like warmth, especially for the West Coast. Like they're not the best for like super cold, frigid weather. You have to wear like finger gloves underneath them. But for this, for like perpetually 2 degrees and a little bit humid, they're kind of perfect. So I don't know, like the mittens are like my least likely to cast on, but if someone tells me that they want like the Raven Light mitts for a gift or something, definitely not for Christmas, for post Christmas, then I can do that. I have the yarn for it. So yeah, so that is my accessory patterns worth your attention. Like I said, the Ravelry bundle will be linked below, as well as my Ko-Fi if you're interested in supporting me for the work that it took to put that together, because it took a long time. It was a lot of fun though. I found some new designers that I'm pretty stoked to like look through. I'm gonna do this for other categories like garments and stuff. So I'm really excited that I've found some new to me designers. They're not new, they've been around, but new to me designers to just like dive into and get really excited about their work. So stay tuned for that. There will be, I think the garment patterns I will probably choose to do like standalone videos and not tack it on to the end of a podcast, but it had just been a while since I had filmed, so I figured I would hit you with a 2-in-1. That's it. I said a lot in this video, so if you're one of those people that annoys, don't comment down below. Keep it to yourself. And that's it for me today. If you enjoyed this video, please do like and subscribe. I almost never ask people to do that, but we're gonna start doing that now. So yeah, if you like this video, please like and subscribe. There is my Instagram, my Ravelry project pages for not all of the knitting that I showed you today, but a lot of it, as well as my Ko-Fi. And if you have any suggestions for bundles of patterns that you want to see in the future, like I know for sure I'm going to do raglans. I know for sure I'm going to do like colorwork yoke patterns. But if you have any like specific category type stuff that you'd like for me to put together, I'd be happy to do so. And without further ado, I'm gonna leave it there, I think. And I might go cast on that cowl. I don't need to cast on anything more, but I want it. Okay. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.